Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us through a slightly circuitous route, but thank you for joining us on the next of the Presca Lunchtime sessions. These are the webinars. I'm Rob Webben. I'm the CEO and a slightly flustered co-founder of Presca, the world's first climate positive sportswear company. So, yeah, we're trading 15 minutes of your time to meet someone incredible in our network. And the incredible person that you're meeting today is Louisa Holbrook from Brompton Bicycles. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Louisa, to give a bit of an intro, 1 minute, bit of personal background, and then let's get into the discussion around sustainability and Brompton and anything else you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, thank you, Rob, so much for an amazing introduction and for inviting me on here. So, my name's Louisa. I'm the head of sustainability for Brompton Bicycle. I've been working in the, I don't know what you want to call it, quotes, corporate responsibility, sustainability industry for over 11 years now, working for a variety of companies and industries, from airline to fashion and now in cycling. And yeah, I'm just super happy to come on here and continue the conversations I know, Rob, we've been having about all things sustainability, business, etc.
Yeah, amazing. I was lucky enough to visit Louisa recently at the incredible factory at Brompton, and just had a tour of the place, which I was mind blown about actually, and I'm hoping really excited to talk about that today. Interested though, so you've been in the kind of CSR point of view from an airline, and now you're onto bikes. You're definitely going the right way, the
One
right
transport
direction.
to the other. Yeah, I suppose, yeah, it's started life in airline, yeah, moved into fashion, back into bikes. Yeah, it's good to kind of go across the different industries and see what's kind of going on. But yeah, definite transport mode change there, I suppose, when you look at it.
That's really interesting. So this isn't the topic of the discussion today, but between clothing, airline, hardware, how have you found that sustainability discussion has been for you to kind of pushing on doors with management teams in those companies?
I think there's definitely industries who are more advanced than other industries. I think there's definitely reasons for that. The fashion industry is a great example where it does get a bad rap, and quite rightly, there is definitely challenges in the fashion industry, but they are actually very progressive in terms of other industries. But that's actually because they were forced to be. So there was a kind of that early doors forced hand, because there was kind of exposés about the challenges, and the customers become very aware of that. Interestingly, the cycling industry, I was in Germany last week speaking at a cycling industry event, and we actually talked about how the cycling industry is not as advanced as, let's say, the fashion industry, and actually we are a little bit behind. And actually that's not because it's a bad industry, that's not because the brands aren't doing good things. And Brompton's a great example of things have been there has been some great stuff, but from an industry perspective, from a collaborative industry perspective, it's been very recent years that we've been working together on these challenges. And I think an element of it is because we make a bike that you can use for a more sustainable solution, and maybe resting on those laurels a little bit from companies has happened. But ultimately, like you say, you visited our factory. We are a manufacturer first and foremost. We make a sustainable mobility solution, but we have a responsibility and accountability for our own footprints. And we are still challenging ourselves with what does growth look like in a sustainable world and stuff like that. So yeah, different industries are moving at different levels, and if I'm honest, it also comes down to the company, because companies move at different levels as well, and that comes down to leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things to unpack there, and we just don't have the time. But one thing that I was really interested in was when we spoke about this was how actually the bike industry is kind of, or has rested on its laurels a bit, and partly that's maybe because it just hasn't had its feet held to the fire like, say, the clothing industry has. Would you be happy to share some of your challenges? So let's talk about Brompton actually. Let's talk
Yep.
about Brompton as an incredible mobility solution
Yep.
and the kind of sustainability elements of that, and then maybe some of the challenges in there as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our founder designed the Brompton bike because he saw a need to have a sustainable mobility solution that could be used alongside other transport modes. So he wanted something that you could fold up and use on the train, and you could use on the tube, or you could put it on the bus, or you could even put it in the back of a car. But it enabled you, to be part of that ecosystem of transport, where you could use that last mile, you could use those few miles across with a bike. So ultimately, the product was designed to do that. And also, he was an engineer. He designed this product to last. He wanted it to last. He wanted it to be repairable. He needed it to be, you could disassemble it easy. And there's people who love their Brompton bikes and they've had them for 15, 20 years. And, we definitely don't push you need more bikes in your life. We're very much about, you buy a Brompton and you have one Brompton, and that's what we live by. So that very much is our ethos. But like I said, we are a manufacturer, so we have been exploring over the last couple of years, what is our impact? What is our social and our environmental impact? Where is that happening in the world? Which bits of it can we actually leverage change on? Where do we maybe need to work collectively with the industry? Maybe where do we even need to get government involved for policy changes? If you just look simply at our life cycle assessment we did, over 60% of our impacts are derived within our supply chain. So before anything's even got to the doors of our factory here in London, before we even start brazing, our frames together and everything, 60% of those impacts have happened. But that's still because of our decisions. We're deciding where that material is coming from. We're deciding what suppliers we're using, how we're moving that. So we are still hugely accountable for that big piece. And we are really exploring, how do we access more sustainable, low carbon materials? How do we make sure that they are transported in a sustainable way? Waste is a huge thing. How do we make sure that we are efficient with what we use? How do we make sure that, we have the people in our Brompton factory who make the bike, but actually there are thousands of people who help build our bikes all over the world in our supply chain. How do we make sure that they're treated in the way that we want our own staff to be treated? So yeah, I think the challenges that exist for us as Brompton as manufacturers are literally the same challenges that pretty much exist for a lot of companies who make products, and we're all trying to find our way to make things make continuous improvement there.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I was really struck by, Louisa, actually was when I came to the site was the scale of the operation there. And so actually the fact that it's only 60% of your impact is in your supply chain that's very significantly different to probably most other bike companies where, that's 95%. I mean, it's clear that you're already doing a lot on the sustainability point of view. I mean, just simply that you're making a product with such emotional durability and so much kind of loyalty and commitment to it. That is fantastic from a point of view of a product longevity. But also, you have been making some big changes in the factory itself, in how you're manufacturing. And do you want to just kind of touch on some of those in 30 seconds or so, if you can?
I mean, really high level is our factory. We've been making huge improvements. We recycle over 70% of our waste. We have a zero to landfill manufacturing facility. We're a living wage certified employer. So we're kind of ticking those boxes. And also early this year, we announced that we have already outgrown our home. So we are looking for that next home. And we found that in Kent, in Ashford. So we have plans we have a 100-acre wetland site where we're going to be building a net zero sustainable building. We're rewilding 60 acres. We're going to have cycle tracks. Bit controversial. We're not having car parking apart from
I love that.
disabled access, because we have to, if we're a sustainable mobility solution, we picked this site because of its connections to rail, etc. And we've got our bikes, It's controversial. Let's see how close we actually get to delivering on that. But if we're thinking about opening in 2027, we have to really be thinking about what the future needs. And I just don't think today we can say we're going to cement down a whole massive car park for 800 cars. We can't. We have to at least try to do something
In such a sensitive habitat as well.
It is completely, and that's why there's a controversial element of us as building on this land. But for us, we went to see other land which was industrial estate, all of this, and it wasn't Brompton. We want to be connected to the environment. Our factory is designed in a way where everyone who works in can see out and really be part of that beautiful wetland area that we're going to rewild. But also we've made it accessible. We want the community to be able to see in. We want to be like, come see our factory, come see how things are made, look at British manufacturing. We're going to have education as part of that. We really want to blur those lines and really challenge what manufacturing is. So yeah, like I say, we're going in for planning. Let's see how close we get to that dream.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's that's such a challenge for you from a sustainability point of view, such an exciting challenge. The idea of building on a wetland instantly makes me think, oh, but the way you're going about it is clearly very sustainability led, which is, I mean, fantastic. And the footprint that you will create, though, what happens with that, and how do you deal with that?
In terms of the factory footprint.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got some incredible, I personally am learning so much from these incredible people we've got kind of advising and helping us. We're really exploring things like embodied carbon, because we're going to have to need concrete. We're going to have glass. What is the future of that? How do we access low carbon materials? How do we build longevity into that building?
Hempcrete.
Yeah. How do we build adaptability as well? We want this to be a forever home. We might change the product we make. So how do we make sure the building can adapt with us? How is it going to be resilient to the changing environment? How is it going to be a great place to work? What does even working look like in 2027, 2030? We've gone through COVID and we're all completely different now. I mean, both of us, we're at home. So it's a really exciting project. And I think what I love about it is the Brompton ethos. We're treating this project like we treat our bike. Our bike looks the way it does because everything on that bike has a purpose. It wasn't designed to look like that, and then we made things work around it. It's form follows function, and the factory is very much the same. How can we be really smart about energy use? How can we utilize the resources that are available to us, be it the water or the temperatures of our processes, whatever it might be? How do we make a really smart, efficient factory? Instead of just going, here's a factory and we'll stick a wind turbine up outside and it'll look sustainable. How do we actually make something that is truly sustainable, in essence? So there's some real challenges, and we don't have all the answers, but we've got some incredible people in, and we're open to everything at the moment. We are like, the weirder, the wackier, the better. That's the kind of Brompton ethos. So,
oh, that's so exciting. That genuinely is so refreshing to hear a company talk like that. And I think you should be running the marketing department as well as the sustainability department. That's awesome.
Let me loose there.
Yeah, I'm gonna just ask one question before we round up. I can't believe it. We're almost at the end already. But one question is coming from Charles, which is really interesting, around how you do your sampling. And essentially, in the clothing industry, we're pretty slow. We still use scissors, and for every sample is most of it, although it's 3D technology is evolving. How is that sampling process in the hardware industry? Do you make samples, or do you just rely on 3D mock-ups and CAD, or what's that process you go through?
It's a combination of the two. So we have quite a stringent process that we go through, and there's various gates in that process that you have to pass. So those first initial gates are very much digital led, and the technology that our guys can use these days are amazing. So we can really challenge some of the technical testing within those stages, and then we will start going to samples. So we do what's called beta builds, and we do various ones of that. When we are at that stage, though, we are pretty much building bikes that we won't sell, but they are bikes that can be used. So
if you want to give one away.
I was going to say a lot of our employees are running around on these said slightly not quite a Brompton, something a bit different about it. Yes, if you ever see a Brompton go around that looks a little bit odd, it might be a Brompton employee. But also we make sure as well, like I said, we are recycling over 70%. We actually can, if we personally are in control of the breakdown of a Brompton bike, we can recycle over 90% of it, and we make sure that any of those sample builds we do make that potentially aren't, for a safety reason, shouldn't be let loose, they go through the process of being broken down and recycled away. So there's an awareness about that. And also we're doing a lot of work with our design team on, do we need to be sampling? Do we need to be testing? Where can digital come in? Where can AI come in? That's something we're looking at, etc. So yeah, still opportunities, but we're trying to go in that direction of minimizing.
Oh, brilliant. You touched briefly on circularity. We haven't even spoken about that. We could get into spend hours on that alone. Honestly, Louise, I could speak for hours and hours, and I really enjoyed our last conversation. I've really enjoyed this one, no matter how brief it is. I hope everyone else has as well. I am going to ask us 3 standard questions at the end just to wrap up. There's a couple of questions that have come in which I'll drop into the LinkedIn group after, so if you wouldn't mind at some point jumping onto them, that'd be brilliant. But yeah, the time is nearly up. So if you wouldn't mind answering 3 questions, what does community mean to you, Louisa?
A community is completely broad to me. It's the community in which we operate. It's the community in which our products go out to. It's our suppliers, it's our customers, it's our stakeholders, it's our shareholders, it's everyone really that is in any way connected to the Brompton brand that we can influence and have a change on.
Amazing. And why should we care about the climate?
Because we are completely dependent on it. I think people sometimes forget. I think they think as humans that we are above it. It's completely dependent on them. And as I like to point out to some people, we're not here to save the planet. The planet, in a worse degree, will survive. It's humanity who is at risk. And the destruction we're causing to those biodiversity, etc. So we have to care about climate. It's first and foremost.
Yeah, I hear you. We're not trying to save the planet, we're just trying to save ourselves, right? Yeah, and on that, I mean, on that slightly down note, but what makes you feel positive? What gets you out of bed and really, keep doing what you do every day?
Individuals, I am definitely a glass half full. I know it's a scary landscape. It's a landscape I've worked in for 11 plus years, but there is a huge momentum year on year. That momentum gets bigger. Brompton's a great example of, yes, I have sustainability in my job title, but actually the sustainability stuff are driven by all of those individuals who work there, who just want to do a job and do it in a way that's bringing a benefit to society. And I think it's individuals for me, who are still driving it forward. So as long as they exist, I will stay positive.
Yeah, I love that. It's all about the people. Brilliant. Louisa, thank you. So anyone who hasn't recently checked out the Brompton site or booked onto a factory tour at the Brompton site, I totally recommend it. It's a brilliant place to go. You can clearly tell from Louisa that she's got so much passion and energy and drive to make genuine sustainable change. So thank you, Louisa, for that. Keep going. And thank you for joining us today for a very brief chat. There we go. So we've learned from Louisa that you're building an incredible new factory. You won't be able to drive there, which is incredible. I love that. But that we all, we're recognizing that the bike industry has got a long way to go. There's no bones about it. But clearly there are people who are really pushing on that. So and here's one. So thank you ever so much for joining us, Louisa. If you've enjoyed today's session, please do join the Sustainability Changemakers LinkedIn group, where we can keep the conversation going. I'm off next week, so next Friday there's going to be a pre-recorded version of a chat I had with Sal Montgomery, who's a professional kayaker, adventurer with purpose, completely inspiring woman. So please do join in. I think that will go live at 12 o'clock next Friday. In the meantime, well, thank you so much, Louisa. Thank you, everyone, for dialing in, putting up with the technical issues. And I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thank you, Rob.
Take care, Louisa. Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.